Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Nurturing Leadership. I'm your host, Andrew White, and I am excited to be back. I hope you've all had a fantastic week. I'm about to start back into the academic new year here in Australia, and it is hot. I'm even hot in this shirt that I'm currently wearing, even though some of you might not be able to see me. Well, thank you for coming back. Thank you for revisiting the episodes. I've had many messages in the last week. People I don't know reaching out just saying how helpful it's been. Let me just tell you, it's just things that I am learning over the last 2 years. I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of studying around human biology, a lot around neuroscience and neuroplasticity, and trying to incorporate that into the leadership, not only into the self, me improving myself as a person, but also into the workforce as a leader, and that's the direction we tend to be going with Nurturing Leadership, and obviously the other podcast that I've been raving about, Leading Our Own Way, aka Low. So please get onto that at leadingourownway.com. Please take a look. And yeah, I hope you're going to enjoy the guests. I'm going to launch that in March. Anyway, let's get back to Nurturing Leadership. Today's episode is going to be around trust and oxytocin as a fundamental part of leadership. The first one was a little bit of an introduction to neuroscience, into neuroscience-based leadership concepts. If you haven't listened to them yet, please go back a couple of episodes and watch that first. Last episode was around emotional intelligence, something that I am deeply passionate about and have been for forever, pretty much. Yeah, please have a listen of that. So that's the last episode. But today is going to be around trust and the release of oxytocin, and really what happens, and diving deep into that. Again, things I'm just putting together, things I'm learning. But yeah, I just wanted to briefly introduce it. My title of this podcast is going to be the power of trust. And the powerful nature of trust when it comes to being in a leadership position, but also being just a colleague, being part of a team. So the power of trust and how oxytocin shapes stronger team bonds in leadership. I wanted to start off by saying how, and this is just a snippet of something that I put in the neuroscience series based in the little post that I did on Instagram. So you can see a PDF version of this as well. Well, it's not PDF. I have it as a PDF, as a PowerPoint, but also it's just a normal post on Instagram and Facebook. So trust is a fundamental aspect of leadership. Neuroscience does show that the hormone oxytocin is released when people trust each other, promoting that social bonding. Have you ever imagined yourself in a team environment where you both agree on things? Hey, it doesn't always have to go that way, of course, but when you can relate and people connect and see your side, even if it doesn't maybe go with your idea, for example, you still have the element of trust. Doesn't mean just somebody's not agreeing with you, you lose that balance of trust and that release of oxytocin, but you just them acknowledging you can be enough sometimes. So leaders who build that trust within their teams, they can stimulate in that oxytocin release and foster much stronger relationships. So yeah, in the dynamic world of leadership, trust stands as that center point for success, that bedrock, if you will. It's not just that, that warm, you get that warm, fuzzy feeling, don't you? But it's deeply rooted in our biology. Neuroscience reveals that when people do trust each other, that magical hormone that I mentioned earlier it's that oxytocin release. We acknowledge it as a feeling, but it's actually something that's surging inside of you. It's creating, a ripple effect. If you imagine a puddle, a ripple effect of social bonding. And in its journey through the intertwined realms of trust and oxytocin, we're going to explore how leaders, armed with this knowledge, if they're at the forefront, if they acknowledge these things, this neuroscience balance, and use these as concepts in leadership, they can not only build that trust, but they can also stimulate the release of it to foster stronger relationships within their teams. All right, so trust in leadership. Trust, again, it's not just a word, it's a glue that holds teams together. Picture this, a team where trust flourishes. Members collaborate seamlessly, ideas flow freely, and there's a shared sense of purpose. Trust is the secret. It can be the secret that transforms a group of individuals into higher performing teams. For leaders, though, earning trust involves a delicate dance we're trying to put something with each. One was the ship last time, and the sailing, but let's go with dance, of delicate dance of reliability, integrity, genuine care. It's that assurance that your team can count on you, and in return, you can count on them. The importance of trust in that leadership is like sunshine, so as opposed to plants. It makes everything grow. And that, again, why we picked nurturing as part of the name of nurturing leadership. Let's have a look at oxytocin, the trust hormone. Let's zoom into the microscopic world of hormones and meet oxytocin now, affectionately known as trust hormone. So oxytocin isn't, it isn't just about labor contractions and and breastfeeding. It's a social catalyst released in moments of trust and connection. I know I use those two examples because of oxytocin is massively released when those type of events are happening. That's one that always is used in books. Some of these books they use when they talk about oxytocin, they use those examples of breastfeeding and giving birth. So yeah, when oxytocin flows, it's like a symphony playing in our brains. You can feel it sometimes, creating that harmonious atmosphere of bonding and affiliation. Understanding the role of oxytocin, though, is like discovering the hidden melody behind successful teamwork and leadership. The neurobiology of trust is, to understand how trust and oxytocin move together, we need to take a peek into the brain's backstage. Oxytocin receptors are scattered across the various brain regions, including the amygdala, the hippocampus. The hippocampus is where your memory's stored, and your prefrontal cortex. It's not just one area. It's a coordinated effort, like like a band at a concert, if you will. Oxytocin, in its how can I say this? In its major role, helps modulate behavior. It reduces the stress. It reduces chronic stress. We don't want it to go into chronic stress. Fosters emotional empathy and nudges us towards positive social interactions. It's the brain's way of saying, hey, this is someone you can really rely on. Don't you just love it when you can feel that amongst being within a team? I love it. I get pretty giddy, if I'm honest. Building trust and triggering oxytocin release isn't a mysterious alchemy. It's about authentic leadership, empathy, and fostering collaboration. We touched on empathy and the difference between empathy and compassion. I do say empathy quite a lot, but I want us to look more at compassion, how we can physically put ourselves in a position to help people. Authentic connections. Authenticity is, that magic wand of leadership. When leaders are genuinely open and being genuine with their own personality and transparent, team members feel a connection that goes beyond the professional realm. It's about being that human, that I call it the feel of the game, where they share stories and acknowledging both successes and challenges. Again, empathy in action. It isn't a soft skill. There's no such things as soft skill and hard skills. I'd rather call it human skills, or go with the feel of the game skills. That's my own little personal touch on stuff, I suppose. Yeah, leaders, who take time to understand their team members' perspective and emotions, create an environment where trust can really thrive. It's the difference between saying, well, I understand, and I'm genuinely feeling it. Collaboration, teamwork, when it comes to magic in collaboration, teamwork makes the dream work. Teamwork makes the dream work, sorry. And oxytocin agrees. Encouraging collaboration activates the oxytocin release, waving a web of interconnectedness within the team. Leaders who foster inclusivity and value diverse opinions create a fertile ground for trust to flourish. There can be challenges in building trust, though. Building trust is a journey fraught with challenges. Trust erosion can occur due to, broken promises. That happens a lot. Sometimes things come in the way of that. But again, justification, a sit down will fill in those gaps, communication gaps or inconsistent behavior. Inconsistent behavior, though, becomes consistent behavior, doesn't it? I suppose, recognizing these pitfalls, they are crucial, and leaders must, I suppose, be adept at only building trust, but also at rebuilding it when it falters. Leaders also, they face the challenge of navigating individual differences in oxytocin response, though, because every brain is wired a little bit differently. We do share 99.9% of the same DNA as the next person, even though we're all completely different. But the brains are wired differently. And I suppose understanding and respecting these differences is the key to effective leadership. So sometimes we do have to think ethically about, I suppose, consider different ethical perspectives. As we dive deeper, it's essential to understand the ethical dimensions of leveraging oxytocin insights in leadership. Ethical leaders prioritize integrity and ensure that their actions align with principles that foster trust on a foundation of, I suppose, transparency and honesty. Leaders, I feel, probably need to look at treading carefully, recognizing that the power of to influence oxytocin release comes with responsibility. Using this knowledge ethically ensures that trust isn't manipulated by genuinely nurtured for the benefit of both individuals and the organization. Okay, so, I suppose in that symphony of leadership, trust plays a leading role. And oxytocin provides, I suppose, the soundtrack, I guess. By understanding the neurobiology of trust, leaders can amplify their impact on team dynamics. Some of us, and there are people there, get into a leadership position because maybe it's about them wanting to be a leader, but do they understand how to be a leader? Have they learned? Do they get that continuous learning to be a leader? And it's, I've mentioned it before, it's like being a parent. You have to learn as you go. We shouldn't be put into a leadership position if we don't want to. That has to, that has to come with it, I suppose. So it's not just about being the boss, if you will. It's about being a trustworthy guide, fostering that environment where oxytocin flows freely, and stronger relationships definitely flourish. I suppose us as leaders navigate the intricate dance between trust and oxytocin. They embark on a journey towards not just success, but fulfilling and harmonious leadership experience. And that means you go to work happy every single day as a leader. But on the flip side, people come to work happy because they want to be around you and not spend the day avoiding you as well. And that goes towards colleagues, not obviously just leaders. But let's imagine stepping into a workplace where the air is definitely charged with positivity, where trust isn't just a concept, a theory, but it is a living and breathing force. I love those atmospheres. I'm sure some of you can relate, or some of you dream maybe. I know some of us will be getting up and listening to this going, well, I don't get any of that, so they don't understand. But anyway, welcome to welcome to the realm of effective leadership, where trust and oxytocin from a dynamic duo, creating a symphony of collaboration and connection. So we'll explore the intricacies of trust and the fascinating roles of oxytocin and how it plays in leadership, painting a vivid, picture of a workplace where teams thrive and bonds, and where the bonds and connections strengthen between colleagues, and the productivity, soars. So I've mentioned before the trust as that cornerstone, that bedrock upon where strong leadership is built. Picture a leader as a trustworthy guide, a beacon of reliability in the professional landscape. When leaders embody trustworthiness, employees feel an unmistakable sense of security. This security breeds confidence in their decisions and actions. So let's have a look at briefly open communication. Trust unlocks the gates of communication. Picture a workplace where ideas flow. Team members feel safe to express themselves. They become vulnerable, and all this is done without the fear of judgment. If you are, let's have a look at the flip side. If you do fear judgment, you be quiet in meetings, you become recluse, you don't connect with questions, you don't ask questions, you don't sit and respond to ideas, then you look lazy, or you look and feel like that. It's just, I've seen it on both sides. I felt like that, but then I sometimes have judged other people when I really probably didn't know what was going on inside their brains. This whole the open communication is the lifeblood of innovation and creativity. Let's improve collaboration. Trust sets the stage for collaboration to flourish. In an environment of trust, team members willingly come together, pooling their strengths and ideas. It's a collaborative dance, if you will, where the whole is truly greater than the sum of its parts. Elevated morale. We touched on morale last week. I think we did. Anyway, it's a morale booster. You can't avoid it. It feels great when employees trust their leaders or their colleagues. They're not just punching the clock, waiting and counting the minutes and hours down to the end of the day, or going to bed late. I've met and spoken to a lot of people where they go to bed really late to avoid the next day starting early. Have you ever felt like that? One of the guests that I've filmed on Low, Leading Our Own Way, he used to hate Sunday nights, dreaded them for 30 years and never understood why. And he looked back at his childhood, and that was the trigger of that. Being bullied at school, he connected that to the workplace for when he was older, 30 years later, and he figured it out in his 40s. We don't want that punch in the clock scenario. We want there's got to be a part of a mission, a shared vision that elevates the sense of purpose and belonging. So let's have a look now, maybe at the impact on team productivity and loyalty. We can have enhanced team productivity. That trust is that catalyst of productivity. An atmosphere of trust, teams operate at their peak potential. Decisions are made efficiently, and tasks are executed seamlessly, leading to tangible results. And this isn't a quick one. This isn't a finite mindset or a finite game you're playing. It's an infinite mindset. It's an infinite game that you're playing. To get those results quick, then you're playing finite. You've got to go long. You've got to think of the long game, right? That's the important one. When we touch base every day, we build that trust. It takes time. Anyway, fostered loyalty is a big one. Trust begets loyalty. When employees trust their leaders and their colleagues, they feel they're more likely to stay committed to the organization. Having, high turnover can be an easy one of why people are leaving. There's usually hidden things, not always. People time to move on for progression. That also has to come into consideration. But loyalty becomes a two-way street, creating a stable and enduring foundation for the team. So where oxytocin plays a part, well, it's the hormone of connection. It is that, it's an ingredient and an important one that adds an extra layer of magic to the leadership mix. Oxytocin isn't just a physiological response. It's the glue that binds them together, creating an environment where collaboration and empathy thrive. Oxytocin role in bonding and social connections. Like I mentioned, it's a social catalyst, and leaders foster positive interactions. It triggers the release of oxytocin among team members. This sets off a chain reaction of bonding and connection. I suppose it turns the workplace into a bit of a social hub, doesn't it? That's kind of what it feels like. Some people say, well, you don't come here to socialize, you come here to work. But imagine being able to do both. And it doesn't mean you're playing jokes all the time. They're just embedded throughout the day to make the day go easier and nicer, and you want to come back the next day. Having that supportive work environment, creating that supportive, inclusive work environment is definitely one of the keys, I think, to unlocking that oxytocin potential. It doesn't just trust, but it builds you up, and you actually probably thrive a lot more. You're actually better at your job. Have you ever been really good at a job or seen somebody really good at the job and then they go down? Well, they never lost the talent to be good at what they're doing. There's a reason why. Just got to dive deep, people. Sometimes it isn't hard. Team members feel supported, valued, included. Oxytocin levels Right. Creating a positive and cohesive atmosphere. Still getting used to talking on a mic. Not very good at it. Still trying to look at this thing. If you can't see me, I'm pointing to the camera. The hormonal response and its impact. Promoting trust. Oxytocin isn't just about warm, fuzzy feelings inside. Is we want to promote the trust as oxytocin levels increase. So does the willing to trust and be trusted. It's a biological reinforcement of trust cultivated by effective leaders. We need to. Oxytocin doesn't work on its own. It's a part of a trio that includes trust and empathy and compassion. If we, every time I say empathy, let's consider compassion in there too. Not always doable, but if we're always empathetic, there's a downside to that because your brain doesn't get to be fixed in the way of helping them. We're just hearing the stories, we're stepping in their shoes, and us not being in a position to help can actually be detrimental to our own mental health as well. So I like to say, let's be compassionate as much as we possibly can, because there is a difference. So it doesn't just work on its own. It does include trust and empathy. The hormone fosters empathy, cooperation. It creates a heightened awareness of other people's perspectives. This in turn fuels what I just mentioned, the cooperation, making teamwork seem seamless. It just works. It just does. Oxytocin response, isn't just a fleeting emotion. It contributes, I suppose, I'm trying to think how I can say it, the long-term strengthening of team cohesion. As team members bond over shared experiences, discussions about the weekend, what are they getting up to in the holidays, oxytocin weaves a tapestry of interconnectedness. Have you ever, here's a good example. I'm from England, and anytime I meet somebody from England in the workplace, I suppose I look for connection. I look for connection. Hasn't always worked. That's my fault. But I've looked at the connection. I've always, you go on holiday to another country as well, and you meet, it's like I'm from Manchester, and when I used to go on holiday, and there'd be, all these different foreign people around, and I meet somebody from England, and they're not from Manchester, though, they're from London, a 4-hour drive away. Straight away, you feel connected with them because they're from England. Yet, if they was with you in England, you probably won't connect with them. There's the release. You have a connectedness in some shape or form. I don't know. I always find that pretty weird. This symbiotic. Let's have anyway. Let's bring the two forces together, though. Imagine a workplace where they do dance perfectly together. It is the symphony, as I mentioned before, of leadership, where leaders conduct with trust, and oxytocin melodies fill the air. The conductor, the trust, guiding the team with confidence. Trust becomes the conductor, guiding the team with unwavering confidence. Leaders embodying trust set the tone for the workplace where everyone feels secured and valued. Got to look at the time because I do need to take my little boy swimming soon. Monday afternoon here, for anyone who was wondering. Creating a culture of transparency. Trust, again, as that conductor, fosters a culture of transparency. Leaders share insights, successes, and challenges openly, creating that environment where trust can fly through the air. Positive interactions as little musical notes. Oxytocin becomes that melody, responding to leaders who orchestrate positive interactions. Each interaction, I suppose it's like a musical... it's more like it's like a musical note contributing to the overall symphony and connection, I suppose. Where do I go now? Let's have a look at... I love thriving teams that trust and oxytocin work together, and it builds that workplace utopia. Oh, that's a good word. Yeah, teams, they don't just work, they thrive. That is a utopia, isn't it? The atmosphere is charged with positivity, and yeah, it's just charged with positivity, and every individual feels like a valued contributor to a larger purpose. I suppose it could be a project that's going on in the moment. Yeah, I suppose there's an impact on productivity there. The impact there has to, it becomes profound. Trust and oxytocin aren't, they're just, we can think of them as feel good concepts, but they also translate into tangible results. And you feel good, you feel good of having results. Of course you do. It's like going to the gym and achieving a goal. But then there's another goal to hit after that, isn't there? Teams operate efficiently. Projects are delivered with precision, and creativity becomes that constant companion. And at the end of that, I suppose we all have a sustained employee well-being, which is why I do this, I suppose. In this utopia, employee well-being, I don't want it being a checkbox. I have a thing with things being a checkbox at the moment. Well, I have done for a very long time. I'm sick of checkboxes. It has to be priority. We have models within frameworks of industry, and they increase the percentage of wellness. I've looked at many models over the last 5 years, and the percentage of wellness and well-being has increased. And then it becomes very hard for the leaders to embed it, and it becomes a tick box. Have we done this? Surveys. Shouldn't need to do surveys. Don't get me started on that one. Yeah, I don't want it to be in a checkbox. Let's just leave it at that. It has to be that priority. Trust and oxytocin contribute to a culture where individuals feel seen, they feel heard, and definitely supported, leading to that sustained well-being. However, the path to this workplace utopia isn't definitely without challenges. It is hard. Leaders, I suppose, have to navigate trust erosion. There's a good way of putting it, I suppose. Recognizing the signs and actively working towards rebuilding trust when it does falter. Not just letting it go by and letting time fix it. Acknowledging it. Acknowledging individual differences in oxytocin response is crucial. Tailoring leadership approaches to accommodate diverse perspectives. We're always going to have that. So let's just navigate it. Leaders, I think, also approach this dance with responsibility. Ethical considerations loom large, reminding leaders that the power to influence, oxytocin release becomes a duty to use it ethically, I guess. Balancing the biological insights with ethical standards ensures that trust isn't manipulated, but genuinely nurtured. So I suppose coming towards the end, it's a bit shorter this week. I suppose the conclusion, though, is going back to that music. It is a symphony of leadership where trust and oxytocin harmonize. Effective leadership isn't just about, achieving those goals at the end of every term, end of every budget year, or financial year, or whatever you want to call it, depending on what industry you're in. It's about creating an environment where individuals thrive. You might have a graph going up like this. You've got two lines of representing two teams. You might have one that goes like this because things do happen in life. Then you have one that's, but on this one it's up and down. Of course, I think every line has to be up and down, but you hit the goals and you push the people the last few months to get that target, but people are burnt out and they leave. But imagine you had that still line, but you took those little factors into play every single day, just being that good or leader with emotional intelligence, having that trust in oxytocin. You do have that line, but you don't quite hit the goal, but everyone's happy. Eventually you will hit that goal. That's the infinite mindset. There's a book actually, Finite Mindset by, I think it's called Finite Mindset by Simon Sinek. That's a very interesting read. I've only read snippets of it. I do want to finish that, but it talks about those two performances. I know what team I would rather be a part of. It's not, he uses an analogy. It's not You're not just wringing the towel, get as much out of your employees so the water drips out so you make it dry. you know, yeah, it's not just about achieving goals. It is about creating an environment where individuals can thrive on that daily basis, strengthen relationships between you and the colleagues, teams can thrive, and they get up every morning wanting to come to workplace, and it does become that source of joy. As leaders navigate their daily routines, so conducting with trust and embracing the Oxytocin melodies, they embark on a journey that goes beyond, way beyond success. It's a journey towards a workplace utopia, and it's where leadership is not just about leading; it's about inspiring a collective team every single day. Yeah. All right. Well, I will stop there, but I do want. My idea is to inspire those that are supposed to inspire on a daily basis. That's a passion of mine. And again, that's why I'm doing Leading Our Own Way, because these people I'm interviewing will hopefully share some really good strategies and lessons from their stories of how people can lead their own way as well. And which will result in going to work, I suppose, and conducting themselves better as an individual, as a father, as a mother, as a parent, or a sister, or a brother, or whatever it may be, understanding themselves at a deeper level as well. So next week, we're going to look at neuroplasticity, the rewiring of the brain, understanding learning as a constant growth. We can always develop, we can always learn, we can always rewire our brain. We're not stuck with the brains when they're fully formed at 24 and 28 versus what gender you're in. You can change your brain through development, through learning, through just constant growth. So we're going to look at neuroplasticity at a deeper level next week. I hope you come back for more. I hope you're enjoying it. Sorry if I do mumble here and there. I do get things wrong. I'm just nervous doing this. I'm putting myself out there on the line. And I've changed my career in order to do it, I suppose, but I'm passionate. Could I do this in front of people right now? No. So I'm just better hiding behind the screen. I'm only joking. No, I'm a good talker, but no, I'm pretty nervous, but that's okay. And that's what I want people to understand. It's okay to be vulnerable. Put yourself out there. It's okay. Let's create those safe spaces for those people too. Have a great week, everybody. Come back to Nurturing Leadership next week. Subscribe, share, go to leadingourownway.com as well. Don't forget to there, like all the socials, and let's spread some love. Hope everyone's having a good time. Take care, everybody. See you next week. Thank you for tuning into our Nurturing Leadership podcast, where we delve into the art of compassionate guidance and fostering growth. Your continued support is invaluable to us, so please subscribe and follow us on all your favourite platforms. We are currently on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Remember, great leadership starts with nurturing. Nurturing leadership creates lasting impact. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes filled with insightful discussions. We appreciate you joining on this journey. Thank you for listening.